Our next panel discussion brings into the picture a rather intriguing topic of discussion: reimagining digital transformation with industry-led data models. The challenge with digital transformation is that it requires significant changes in culture, operations, and mindset, which can be overwhelming for businesses to navigate on their own. To deliver expert insights, we have our panelists, Uzair Khan, Managing Partner at Arya Consulting Partners, Phani K. Belede, Partner and Client Technology Officer at Mphasis Corp, Sheikh Hossain, Managing Director at Deloitte Tomatsu, Himanshu Sharma, Chief Information Officer at AMSYS Group. Are we ready for this one? Let's give them a round of applause.
Hear me? No, you can't.
Hello, hello. Yeah, this one is
Hello.
working.
They're all on.
Hello. 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 I don't know. Oh, mine is green. Can you hear me now?
Good morning, everyone. Can you all hear us okay? All right. My name is Phani Belede. I run the Client Technology Office, and I'm a partner at Mphasis, an IT services firm that is based out of New York and has position in 17 countries. We help organizations on their digital and service transformations across banking, financial services, insurance, healthcare, and high tech, to name a few. I would like the panelists to introduce themselves.
Hi all, myself Himanshu Sharma. I'm from Houston, Texas, and currently I'm working as a CIO for AMSYS Group. I have currently like two decades of experience in technology, banking, fintech, right? And then currently working for multiple clients ranging from oil and gas, fintech, pharma. And apart from that, like 2 years back, we have built a new bank, which is quite successful, and then repeating the same story with another one. So it's a quite a journey for me to come up with technology, banking, and then building the business. Thanks.
Good morning, everyone. Can you all hear me? Is this thing on? All right.
Yeah.
My name is Uzair Khan. I'm a managing partner at Arya Consulting Partners. We are a boutique management and technology consulting firm. We have a couple of pillars that we go to market with, but the one that I lead is our digital modernization practice. And it's a pretty wide net, purposefully so, because we pretty much do everything under the sun, from strategy, implementations, operations, and so on and so forth. I'm a strategist, technologist, and a business liaison by trade. I have about 20 years of experience, all of it in core consulting. I started my career with Accenture in their information management practice, and then dovetailed into more tech strategy roles with Deloitte Consulting. And about 5 years ago, me and my partner started Arya Consulting Partners for various reasons, which I'll be more than happy to share with you over drinks or a cup of coffee. But 5 years ago, we started Arya Consulting Partners. We are a woman-owned minority business and ready to kick butt.
Yes, thank you. That was awesome, you know. So my name is Sheikh Shariar. I'm working in Deloitte Tomatsu, which is known for Deloitte Japan. So I am managing director at Risk Advisory. As you know, Deloitte has most of the services in digital transformation things, but particularly I focus on digital asset innovations and product innovations kind of thing. So we have our own assets. We also help our client to invent and enhance their capability and functionality in their existing product as well. And one of the part of that, we also play with a lot of data, mainly customized data models. And that's what we are presenting at present, you know. And My background is like, I came from software engineering background. Used to be a software engineer for a few years, then went to bank and used to develop the data models for bank for a few years. Then moved to totally different industry. I was in SoftBank. Used to develop the self-driving car, robots, and all those physical fancy things. Then I moved to Deloitte and working on mostly on data kind of things. Yeah. So AI data is one of the part of my life nowadays, and that's all. Yeah, I will be happy to share so much of insight, what I'm doing now, as much as it's not my conflict of interests. Yeah, thank you.
Wow, quite a background and quite industry expertise that the panel brings. So let's start with an icebreaker question. If you would compare digital transformation and data transformation to any sport, what would that be? And why?
I would say football. And since this is a global audience, let me preface that, American football. The strategies involved on every play that's made with the goal to get to the touchdown is basically, it can be equated to your business strategy, your IT strategy. Everyone's going towards a goal. Now that goal will keep shifting every year as socioeconomic and technology landscape changes. But in order for you to make every play, you're going to have to tackle, you're going to have to look at the defense that's trying to stop you. Those are your market conditions and other aspects, other pressures that are pushing down on your industry. And you as a quarterback, as a leader, needs to make the right play for every down and know that you need to get across that fourth down without having to turn the ball over. So I would equate it to American football.
Excellent.
And I completely agree with him because you see, like, it's American football is more about not just players, but the team and the strategy. So that is complete analogy, right?
Excellent. Nice. So let's dive in. We also want to expand the conversation beyond data models, right? Because throughout all the panel conversations, there's one common theme that, if you have heard, is the underlying oil, if you will, or current, if you will, has been data. So we said, okay, why not expand it to broaden the topic to data architectures and what the modern data architectures are doing to help with the digital transformation. So with that background, let me ask the first question to the panel. Understanding the role of the data models, what is the role of the data model in a digital transformation? And have you seen how the role has changed or evolved with the evolution and the technology acceleration that we are seeing? Himanshu, you want to take that?
Yeah. So definitely there's drastic changes happening. If you see, there are complementary methodology, development methodologies that are coming up, right? So earlier we have waterfall, now we are going into more agile mode, right? Because the digital transformation, the value that brings, it's like quick to market. That is the first thing that it brings, right? And to support that idea, we need to have supporting processes, supporting tools, supporting mindset. So all that is required to build that outcome. Now, how the roles are changing? Earlier, it's more bureaucratic, but now it's more like horizontal. And if you see the roles that never exist in past, like a Scrum Master, right? We have like the teams are splitted again. There are like QA managers again. Then there's a IT manager is separate now. They are like, there's a very blur line between then they are start calling themselves engineering manager, right? So lot of change happen. There is agile coach are there. So new roles are created. Some people have moved into the new roles based on like their coaching and everything. But at the same time, there are trainings that are provided to the team, and that's how the whole ecosystem is changing in the last 5 years. What it bring on the table? Earlier, like we have, if you have seen, like in some companies, there are quarterly releases, right? Or in worse situation, I've seen annual releases, right? But now there are like releases every 2 weeks that you can attend, and like it's quick to fail. That's the strategy, right? If something is not working, don't waste time. Just get it, release, get the feedback, and improvise, right? So that iterative thing itself has a lot of value.
Excellent. You may want to add anything?
Yeah, let me actually ask the audience here for a question. What do you think, why do you think data is so important, or data models, or just data architecture in digital modernization? Maybe like take 10 seconds, please.
They're assets of your organization. And when you go for things like selling your company or going to IPO, they're part of the evaluation. And it takes time to build a good data model, at least one that's statistically relevant. So these things aren't easily copied. It's not like a piece of code that you can sit there and copy over. So they're valuable.
Absolutely right. You have
Very
a nice
nice.
shiny Ferrari in your garage, but there's no fuel to fuel it. It's just going to stand there, collect dust. Data is fuel for your organization. It innovates. It helps business innovate.
Yeah.
Resistance to change and culture. You know, the users, after all, they are the ones fueling this data. And some of them are afraid to put, you know, a shared document because they trust it better on premise, or, you know, they will use their calculator to verify that Excel is doing the right estimations. I've seen it, I promise. So the users and the resistance to the change that is required to have a fluid data environment.
Excellent. Great, great response.
Absolutely. So maybe to kind of quickly answer your question from my perspective, as digital modernization, I mean, digital modernization is not a new term. It's not something that just came about in the last 5 years, 10 years. Digital modernization has been going on since the time computers were invented. There has been modernization in companies, in business, in business models driven by what technology can enable. Business models 20, 30 years ago, if you guys remember data warehousing, the whole hype was about how do we get our data into a third normal form database, how do we get it into a data warehouse. Now it's so much more complicated with IoTs, with edge computing. Well, how do you create a data model that will that can be placed into an edge node for business critical data? So as the industry is changing, as more technology and innovation is becoming available, we can't forget the fact that our data models, or just the data infrastructure, needs to keep up pace with that modernization.
Excellent.
Yeah, and it could be, you know, fuel, or even someone tells it's one of the bloodline, you know. So we feel like the data was there always, but, you know, the uses of data just being, you know, more effective nowadays because people are thinking on different kind of business model. So not from the standard one, or not from the existing one. So when they think about this different kind of business model, so they has to come with some kind of different kind of insights from that data. So now people are also using that data to understand the other capabilities and from their organizations, you know. So that is also one of the trend that we see nowadays, the business which is been evolving depending on this data. So yes, it's one of the bloodline, or I'll say this is one of the diamond is existing in your grass. Yes.
Wow, nice comparison, nice analogy. So let's get to the next question, talking about the industry-specific data models itself. Can each of you provide an example of what an industry-specific data model is that you have used or observed, and how it actually shaped the course of the digital transformation for your clients or for your own firms?
So I have seen, like in banking, there is an industry standard brand model, so which is quietly used. But to give an insight on top of that, like there are standards, but US banking is built by acquisition. Most of the large bank that you see, like even if you know like Bank of America, that's not their original name. They acquire a bank with that name and then use that name, right? So there's a lot of inorganic growth happen in last 1 century, and that lead to data islands, right? And whenever they acquire a business, right, they try to make IT as silo initially. Right now, the things have changed, but initially, data silos are created, tech silos are created, business was integrated, and that's the core reason of it. So
Himanshu, what data models what standards?
He was talking about the buy-in data model.
Right.
Yeah.
So buy-in, I provide that buy-in. So the question is how we are solving this. So now the things have changed in banking with all the challenges that we have seen. They are going into industry standard practices, right? That let's build a CRM system, right? Which we use a third party, right? And then same thing for security, right? Use a data model for security. So there is not a consolidated like a data model within the banking, but it's more like fragmented. And the thing that is coming up in banking is more about open banking APIs. So and that is now like what I will say, most of the banks have accepted that fact that the only way for communication is not just through file transfers, which is very common within the banking. It's more about connecting through APIs, right? Setting standards for API protocols, and which they are very good in. Like if you see like Swift protocol is there is a lot of protocols in which we define the data formats of transfer, right? So we are in the same mindset of using it. There are some organizations, I know them, I cannot name them, they are going into standardization of their data model, but it is a difficult step. It's not that easy.
Oh, great input. I mean, the acquisitions and M&As are what we are seeing daily, right? Like very recent acquisition of JP Morgan acquiring FRB, or even prior to that where Charles Schwab that acquired TDA. So all of this, I think the underpinning integration can come better if they have those standard data models. Any comments that you want to add?
Yeah, so in the insurance industry, an insurance industry is vast. There's property and casualty, and then there's life, health, and annuity. If you just think about your auto insurance, your home insurance, that's one aspect of it. And then you think about your life insurance, your health insurance, the annuities. These are huge industries. The Accord data model is the standard data model in insurance. That doesn't mean everyone uses it, but it's a solid starting point for insurance companies to start standardizing their data. And it's not just about standardizing their data within their own confines or within their own firewalls. As insurance companies integrate with brokerage firms, brokers who sell their insurance, their clients, excuse me, third-party vendors that provide weather data for them to do more predictive analytics on where a majority of claims would be arising and whatnot. It really is pivotal to have a standard way for all these different entities to communicate with the insurance company. Now imagine if you're a broker and you're sending gigabytes and gigabytes of just tab delimited files over to the insurance company, and they're gonna take like their sweet time figuring out what this data is, versus if the insurance company mandates that anyone transmitting data needs to be in this specific format. Now the integration is easy. Now the flow of data is easy, whether you're sending it through files, whether you're sending data through APIs, whatever your integration pattern might be.
Okay, nice. So let's talk about the challenges, right? While these data models are so good and provide standards, what kind of challenges the organizations face in implementing and standardizing these data models? And how have you seen they went ahead addressing those challenges?
Yeah, maybe I can go first. So this is the one of the sector that we are working a lot, you know. So most of our clients have data model, data, but they doesn't have any specific models, or maybe sometimes they have the model which is not aligned to their business model, you know. So I will define the things in broadly about 4 critical problems. The first one is they have data, but in different kind of media. You know, they don't have the access to it into the digital format. The data in a paper format, in a picture format, in different kind of other formats, you know. So here we face challenges to first convert this data into the digital part, then we will store it, right? So this is the one part. The second part, when it has been converted into the digital part, then we faces like the data has so many garbage things inside, and we need to structure it first to make or feed it into some structure. So structuring the data is, I think, one of the problem that very much facing. The third problem, of course, the standardization one. So it doesn't match with the other industry, and how we'll do that, which industry will be, the best for them. There are so many, discussion going on that selecting the standard and which model should be used. This is the third one. And the fourth one is, after selecting all those things, people also get confused, or sometimes they can't find the actual insight they want it for their business. They can't relate the data. So they have the struggle of relating the data. Few of the examples is already exist in the market, which is quite easily applicable. But when really they want to make some competitive functionality, which is not existing in the present world, or they want to do some innovation out of this data inside, then they really struggle. So that's how I think going on. Yeah.
So innovation is definitely a key challenge that organizations, they cannot move forward given the nature of the data and the silos and the time it takes to process. Any other challenges that you have seen?
I want to add on top of that, like what I've seen is, one is business risk-taking appetite, right? Whether business want to transform their data into a new format, there are challenges on there because they always see immediate value, right? Yeah. If I migrate my existing system to the new structure, what I'm getting, right? And if tech team or the management not able to sell it properly, there is always roadblocks. Other is political issues. There are a lot of things which cannot be done just because people are reluctant to change, right? That mindset is need to be built within the team that, okay, we are doing this for a better future, right? We are not just making you like less productive, or like you are not losing your knowledge. It's more about getting into a better and faster product development cycle. So definitely there are values added when you have a standardization. You can scale up your team, right? You can integrate with other partners. Analytics can be done better. So there are a lot of benefits, but that need to be sold properly within the group, and the group need to be convinced on that. The bigger part that I say is showing the value, right? Because showing the value is something in which, if you do it properly across the business line, right, it take you in that direction. Business always think like, okay, if I add more functionality, I can generate more value. Or there are situations in which, let's say, the business is thinking of a merger or getting acquired. In those cases, they will start putting that into roadmap. So we have to think and provide a better visibility to business that this is not just a tech venture, or this is not just I'm trying to make it beautiful technology, but I'm also trying to make a beautiful company in and out.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
So I want to add one thing. So the very good point. I missed it. The politics kind of thing. I also face these things. Already the data is available, but sometimes the department, one department don't want to share their things to the other department. There are internal politics like that. Sometimes it is not only politics, but sometimes they have the obligation, legal obligation, not to share that data as well. So that is also one of the challenges. If it is legally not right, then of course we cannot use that. But if the person who is holding holding that ownership of the data, we also need to work on that as well. Yeah, please.
Yeah, so the two things I'll add to all these great points is, and actually I'll piggyback off of what Himanshu said about selling it to to the executives, is to, how do you frame it? Do you frame it as a capital expense, operating expense? Because if it's just an operating expense and it's not generating something truly meaningful that the business can articulate or see or feel, then it'll just get buried under, your 20 other OpEx requests by saying, oh, I just need to fine tune my model. Versus if you make it a capital expense, and if you really tie use cases by saying, by enhancing our data infrastructure, our data models, our data architecture, we technology will provide you business with better abilities to make decisions by making cross-department data available, by making better data, data with better quality available, governed data available. It's how you sell it. The second part is, if you're trying to force a square peg into a round hole. If your organization already has what they consider Excel sheets to be your data model, and now you're trying to move into a more systematic, let's say a core model, it's going to be a significant challenge up front and require significant investment up front to get to a more standardized model. However, once you get there, the possibilities of what you can do with it is tremendous. Because remember, it's not just about what you want to get out of your data today or how you want to see your infrastructure today. It's how do you future-proof your data and tech architecture. How will you be ready for AI ML when your company is ready to take on those more innovative tasks? So I'll just leave it at that.
Excellent. So to summarize, right, the data model, the challenges are not just technology and data. It's more to do with the company culture, the need, and the ability to handle the change that the organizations are. And what I've personally seen is the driver is always competition. No industry, no company is immune to competition. And if companies feel the heat that they are being outpaced, their pole position in the industry is being challenged, I think that's when the culture and the organization thinking will start change.
Just to add on that, the competition is critical, but there are some models or there are some examples in Silicon Valley like Amazon, right? They are so much customer centric and all the decisions are done based on data.
Yeah.
Right? So if business start thinking on those lines, that are also a sellable point, right? Don't just think about the competition, but become more data centric. All the decisions should come from data. And that enablement can be done through implementing data models and better data architecture.
Which inherently is driven by customer insights and customer demand. So it comes down to what your end customer is looking for and drive the decisions from there. Excellent.
Probably we can take 10-second questions from related to this.
Say that the best thing to do, I think, is look at your P&L or look at your balance sheet and see where the budget sits. Because sometimes the budget isn't sitting in IT.
Yeah.
Because they're treating IT like...
Most of the time it actually sits in the business lines.
Yes, it's sitting in marketing or it's sitting in the... on another side, and
in your core business.
Yeah. So partnering with internal stakeholder alignment to get them to sponsor a project oftentimes can remove the barriers in order to get better data in their hands, because they need that data to be making better marketing decisions, for example.
So identifying a business champion who really sees the value.
Yeah.
And work with IT. Great insight.
Because like how I used to get I'm on the marketing side, so how I used to get my IT partners on board, I would say, okay, if you partner on me on this project, I will get you X amount of funds to make these amounts of improvements, which go into your bigger scale of what you're trying to get done. Because I'd look at after I got my budget, the IT projects that got defunded, and then I'd turn around and have a conversation with how to get those funded using partnership. But this requires, really good communication between your cross-functional partners.
Excellent.
Yeah, and excuse me. And to further elaborate on that, every change that you make in your organization needs to have a business case. Every dollar spent needs to have a business case. It's identifying who would be the benefactors in that business case. And I completely agree with you that it's not an IT-led initiative. It's an IT-enabled initiative, but really led by business. And business is a broad term. It could be the office of the CFO, because if you're talking about budgeting, they might not their planning and budgeting analysis might take 6 months out of the 12 months. Well, that's really not, the FP&A for doing that for 6 months is just unacceptable.
Yeah.
Showing the art of what's possible and then putting a business case on it, and to your point, identifying a business champion and people in the business of what that objective outcome and the value that's going to be delivered is key. Otherwise, it's going to be a DOA proposal if you just put it up to your CTO.
Another technical project that brings new shiny toys into the company, but no business value. Excellent. So let's jump to the next question. Talk about cross-industry data models, right? Today, no industry is independent. They have to work with other industries in partnership, where because there is a broader ecosystem and tied to customer journeys. So how do you see the cross-industry data models come into play? And when, for example, a business is spanning like multiple sectors, we see like many of the organizations becoming like having not just moving away from their core, like you talked about Amazon. Amazon is no longer a retail company. They are into almost everything from health tech to all the way to run the physical stores. So how do you see the cross-industry data models play a role?
Maybe I can start. I don't believe there truly is a cross-business or cross-industry data model. And the reason for that is every industry and constituents within industries have such unique requirements that if you try and start marrying up different data models, it's going to be an enormous task, a risky task, not to mention every business has their own specific requirements. So you're not going to be able to boil the ocean and create an industry, a cross-industry data model. However, what you can do is create cross-references. So to Phani's example of Amazon, which is a great example, they started off selling books, then they became a full-blown retailer, and now you have Amazon Prime Video, which is completely a different business model. It's video streaming. In those cases, or maybe take an example of a conglomerate that has an insurance arm and it has a retail arm. Now think about this for a second. Retails, when you go, you sign up for their loyalty cards, you get a couple of cents off, a couple of dollars off, but they track all your purchases. They track your spending habits. They track your the type of groceries you're buying. Now, if you have an insurance company and now you start targeting customers that are buying healthy food items, now you have an opportunity to cross-sell life insurance and other insurance products that are meant for those types of individuals. And you can use the same case for people who are not eating right. They're eating, whatever. So having a insurance-specific data model for your insurance business and having a retail-specific, so a cord model for your insurance and the ARTS model, ARTS, for your retail industry, and then having a cross-reference or cross-functional homemade model that sits on top that provides you with those insights, that connects the dot between your customers, creating a customer master, creating a product master. That's more from what I've seen being done in-house and more at a macro level of the conglomerate that owns those different industries, or those different companies in the different industries.
Okay, we'll move on. how about talking about a case study where you have seen a very successful implementation of a data model and how it aligns to delivering true business value? Do you have a case study to talk?
Yeah, regarding this cross-industry things, yeah, I agree with him. There is no specific and very usable data model, but we do customize a lot. So yeah, there are so many examples. Few of I think I am allowed to share. We used to work in a telecom company. So the telecom company used to sell the mobile connectivity, right? So that cellular connectivity data and the subscription data has been used for developing the new business they moved on, which is one of the rental business for car and other things. So they use that subscription information to do the credit rating kind of things. So that is one of the cross data we have used. In healthcare, there are a lot of uses of cross-functional data. So they are using not only the diagnosis data, but also the regular healthcare device data, for example, Fitbits and other data, to use all the things integrated into same place. And not only that, they're also using a little bit of their financial data and insurance data to come up with how the financial situation of that particular person is and what kind of treatment or medicine he can afford. So this kind of so much example we have nowadays going on into the market. Yeah.
It also helps the organization with cross-sell, upsell, right? Once they have this data coming in, if they understand what the health is, what the financial situation is, they could potentially partner with other players in the industry who could bring tailored solutions too.
Exactly.
Okay.
I want to add my recent learning is, I was working with some startups, and what I've learned or understand is these data models are more like concepts, right? It's like like what are the table structure and everything, like when you go start designing the entities and everything, but it's more about the concept. And they have used or you can say it's a starting template that you get, right? So quick start things and then see how much customization you can achieve. And many startups are using, to give an example, CRM system, right? CRM has its own model, but it's highly customizable. Many tools are there where they provide the basic setup, and then you can add features and functionalities. And they have beautifully used it to not create any custom development, just use the tool, and from that tool itself, everything is built on, right? And then that provide you easy migration, export, analytics, everything is coming, just using it in a very right way. So that's another learning I have.
Interesting. So it's more of not have to do a lot of code, but using things like low-code, no-code type technologies. So it's also end-user friendly to define and utilize.
Right. Yeah, easy migration.
And companies like Salesforce, for example, you talked about CRM, right? So they are industry clouds, whether it is banking, financial services, or health cloud. I think they have those standard industry data models embedded, so it's easier for organizations to adopt with minimal change.
Right, and then you are getting continuous upgrades, so you don't have to worry about it, right?
Correct.
I'd like to take this moment. I'm sorry, gentlemen, we are at time. We have the, we have the showstopper event happening in this room next. So I would like to thank you for a very insightful and extraordinary panel. If anybody does want to network with these folks, they will be around here for the conference for the rest of today. And can we have a big hand for our panelists? Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you everyone.